Fighters, coming back with another one. Well, after my last video, China wins. If you didn't see that one, go back and watch it. But basically, what it came down to, the reason they win, at least one of the main reasons they win, was nationalism. And we talked about China, and for all its flaws, it's a country who at least cares about its people. Not really its people. They don't care for the individual per se, but the people, I mean, like as a whole. They care about their their culture and their, time honored traditions and stuff like that. They care about basically the homeland and, you know, keeping it Chinese, keeping it nationalist. So, I've been meaning to do a video about that for a while and kind of discuss nationalism, have a conversation about that. You know, I wanted to talk, more about that and get into it, but I guess we'll start there, and you kind of have to define it because everything, these days, everyone has a definition that's different and it means something different to everybody else, and someone's always going to get offended by it. But anyway, the only people who get offended by nationalism is globalism, or globalists per se. It's the counter argument to nationalism. So I don't give a damn what any globalists have to say anyway. So who cares if they get offended? I've had this conversation with people all the time, but I recently had one, and I got called a who white supreme. And again, I had to kind of talk to them about, well, what's your definition of a who white supreme? What does that mean? Just because you want a border wall, you want national security and safety, like that makes you, a supremacist. And I was like, really, what does that entail? And I told them that I'm not. I do not consider myself, a supremacist. And what that means. I talked earlier about definitions. Well, let me define it. And this is exactly what I told them was, to me, we're all created equal, by God. And that's why when he was like, oh, well, we're not all equal. If I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he asked me some stupid questions or, some of these gotcha questions. And he's like, do you think white people have better countries or, make better societies or something like that? And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, there you go. You're a who white supreme. And I'm like, no, that just means, I think that somebody or some people are better, at certain things than others. And then he got into the whole thing, well, you're a Christian and, you believe that, you just said that God made all people equal. Yeah, when he's talking about our equality, he's talking about our eternal soul. He's talking about your souls. And, we got into it. He says we're all equal. We're clearly not all equal here in the flesh and blood, in certain aspects. You put me on the basketball court with Michael Jordan, he'll prove very quickly that we are not equals. He will destroy me even now, with however old he is in his 60s or something, would destroy me. In his prime, it would just be literally a clown show. He'd be flying over my head and jumping around and, dunking in my face, and man, I'd be lucky to get a frickin'. He'd probably beat me 100-0. Maybe I somehow sneak in a couple baskets. 100-4, 100-6. We are not equal. But when we pass, you think God looks at our souls any differently? And that's what I was getting to. That's what a supremacist means to me. And there's certain religions out there that believe, they're the chosen ones. And they're living because, they're chosen, and they get to make the actions that they do because they are the chosen ones. Now, those are the true supremacists. Just because I want to, live in a white country, or I believe white societies are better, in my mind, from my definition, that's not what that means. Yeah, so then I guess next would be white nationalist is another term, and that's what we started talking about. I said, no, what you're thinking of is not a white supremacist. You're thinking about a white nationalist, and and then I was like, well, that just means that you believe in white societies. You want to take part in a white society or live in a white country. You confirm that America is a white country, and that's again they were like, oh, but it's not, and the Statue of Liberty and blah 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 says you have to take in immigrants and all that. I said, first of all, our country wasn't founded on the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, it was a gift from France, and I can't even remember now when it came, but it's like it wasn't 1776. This isn't in the founding documents or anything like that. And take a look at all the founders. It's clear that this is a white country. But honestly, I don't even still identify as a white nationalist. Because really, when you look at it, I said, I also believe we're just talking about China. They have all the right in the world to do what they're doing, and I believe they can continue doing it. I believe in China for the Chinese, so I guess you could call me a Chinese national. I believe in Africa for Africans. So what am I, a black supremacist now, or anything supremacist? Whatever. Guatemala for Guatemalans, Bolivia for Bolivians, Australia for Australians. So you could take the white part out of the nationalist and just make it a nationalist, because I'm for everybody having their own. So that comes down, I guess, to the definition of nationalism itself, which basically to me it means it's a cohesive unit of people who share morals, ethics, and values, and are less likely to turn on each other because they are of the same, they have the same goals, they're amongst their people, etc. I did a video a couple videos back. I think that was dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery, where we talked about a school event that happened, and whatever they are, at a library or a park or a theater or whatnot. I think those events would happen less often if people are amongst their own. Most people don't want to do that to their brothers and sisters. There's something that goes against that. And the saying, I forget exactly how it goes, but it's like the child will burn down the village to feel its warmth. Like, yeah, if he doesn't feel a part of the village, he'll burn down the village to feel its warmth. Again, you mix all these societies, these warring countries, people who hate each other, and say, oh yeah, it's just a melting pot of everybody, and then everyone has rights to say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and they can own firearms. It's pretty much a guaranteed recipe for disaster. Like, that's not going to work, and that's why they're pushing it, because they know it's not going to work, and they know you're going to beg for safety and ask daddy government to come fix the problem that they've created, by the way. But you're always going to have a Jeffrey Dahmer or Jack the Ripper, that just goes off. There's always going to be evil in the world. There's always going to be craziness. There's always going to be some mental illness or something. But, people who are in sync with each other don't want to do that. Again, they don't want to do that to their brothers and sisters, their neighbors that they grew up with, that they show up, to church with, and their kids go to school with each other and all that. Sure, you'll get into fights and arguments, but, just like back in the old days, they'll settle it with fists and, all kinds of stuff. And sure, they had, there's Hatfields and McCoys and Family Feuds and, all kinds of stuff throughout history, but we made it this far. But now we're looking at, the complete edge of, brink of civil war and revolutions and World War III, and the whole world's pissed off. Everyone's pissed off and just like it's a powder keg ready to explode. And I could, contribute that to globalism and the failed, policies and stuff that we've been doing. But yeah, man, like I said, people together, people who have that cohesive unit, they don't want to do that. And recently I had some, bullshit I had to go through with some, insurance company, and I was looking at all the plans and all this kind of stuff, and I kind of looked into what do they call those things? Man, it's escaping me right now. I can't even think about it, but it's one of those like is it a trust? One of these funds or something where everyone puts their money in. It's usually like church groups and stuff like that. Again, cohesive units, people who are rooted together, who say, okay, we all put our money in this pot, and when, Steve needs it, because he broke his leg, he gets to go to the hospital and get his cast put on, get all his medicine and stuff like that, and we all pay for him now because Steve is our brother. And then one day, when we're gonna need Susie, whatever she had, Susan's mom, got screwed up, and she needs so and so, and now we're all paying for her. All different kinds of avenues, which I kind of, delve into. If you're talking about nationalism and how I was getting into the healthcare and the insurance and everything, well, then a naughty little word called National Socialism. Uh-oh. But, yeah, I ain't no socialist. I have a pretty staunch record on that. But, when you look into these, countries that have, 90%, 95%, demographics, and they have socialist style healthcares, it works a lot better. Like, it won't work here because everyone's fighting over resources, everyone's, fighting over everything. There is no common ground. Again, like I said, between a bunch of warring factions with all kinds of ideological and political beliefs, supposed to share the same land, supposed to share the same country, and they're all calling it their country. It's just wild. So let me know what you guys think, man. I'm sure a lot of people are. If you're on my channel, you're most likely from a nationalist kind of point of view, but I'd like to hear any counter arguments, or whatever you think about it. If you think about my definitions, if you thought I kind of laid it out right, let me know. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And until the next one, you know what it is. We are on our own. No one's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.